today is Thursday, January 12th, 2017. This is the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for the City of East Hampton, Massachusetts. Administrative items, the first thing is public comment or speak time. If anyone has anything that they would like to talk about that is not relative to hearings that are already on schedule for this evening. You're okay. And approval of the minutes from the November 10th, 2016 meeting.
Move we approve the minutes.
I'll second them.
All right, all in favor? Yeah, okay. Okay, correspondence requests, we do have a letter transmittal from the planning department in reference to, what's that?
For the planning board, site plan approval.
All right. Well, we can all read this over. If anyone has anything they'd like to add, they can add their commentary to it. All right, is it now 6:35 yet? Close enough? Yes?
I might.
Okay. Then our first hearing this evening, I'm sorry if I don't say names correctly, Danielle Martineau of 89 Northampton Street seeking a special permit for an accessory apartment in accordance with zoning bylaw 8.5 of the East Hampton zoning ordinance. The subject property is located at 89 Northampton Street. Parcel ID is 128-115 and zone residential suburban B R10. Danielle Martineau, are you present? That's not a good sign. All right, well, we will move on then to our next hearing. All right, the next applicant is Nancy Gwiner. Gwiner, okay, sorry, like I said, we see them all and it's tough sometimes. Nancy Gwiner, seeking a special permit to change a pre-existing non-conforming structure and lot in accordance with zoning bylaw 11.1 of the East Hampton zoning bylaw ordinance. The subject property is located at 30 and 32 Lyman Street. Parcel IDs 105-6, 105-7, 105-8 in zone residential suburban A R15. So you are present.
Yes.
What would you like to say? What would you like to do?
I'm gonna let
Yeah.
Mark.
Hi, for the record, my name's Mark Reed from Heritage Survey, representing Nancy Gwiner tonight on this application. And I can put up a plan
There.
and describe.
Mark, is there any way you can have that, someone get caught
Someone,
here?
yeah, sure. If I go kind of that way, maybe? Maybe. We go sneak this way and then I can describe. Mrs. Winter owns property on Lyman Street, known as 32 Lyman Street. And, I'm sorry, 30 Lyman Street. And her niece, Deborah Angelo, owns property at 32 Lyman Street, being the house, existing dwelling located here, which is owned by Mrs. Winter, and there's an existing dwelling on this abutting piece to the east, owned by Deborah, her niece. Excuse me. For reference, Ballard Street is up in this area. This is Lyman Street. Northampton Street would be to the right of the plan. And currently, and has been for many, many years, the location of Rainer Door Company, setting in the back. And that's located in these buildings.
Okay.
So for reference, that's the site. Where, to access Rainier Door, you drive in a driveway here, come into a parking area here, and then back out. And that property is owned by Deborah, as well as the existing house at 32. This piece of property in this whole area of town, or this corner, has been in the family for many, many years. And if you notice on the plan, we've noted the date of the construction of some of the buildings. So that the buildings in question here have been in existence for over 62 years on the property. Mrs. Gwinner would like to sell this piece of property, and when we did the survey work, we found that this garage, which was built in 1984, was over the boundary line to her niece's property. And in relationship to the existing cinder block building garage, which was built in 1950 for the property. This is kind of a blow-up of the area because it's kind of small in size. Excuse me. So the application is to correct the boundary line between the two parcels to eliminate the encroachment of the garage and to convey what is known as parcel A, which is 712 square feet of land from Deborah to Nancy to eliminate the encroachment of the garage on her property. In doing so, we found that the distance between the block garage building, which was built in 1950, and the garage, which is utilized for Nancy's house, was built in 1984. There's only 25 feet between them. Under today's zoning, you need 15 and 15, 30 feet. Back then, you didn't need to have that much room between them. So what we've discussed with the planning staff and is to prepare this plan showing that the rear property owned by Deborah would have a setback of 15 feet to be in compliance with today's zoning. But this property line would be only 10 feet off of this garage, which is owned by Nancy. Hence, that's why we're here before you people tonight. We also found, a little side note, that when they built the pool and fencing, that parcel B, which is shown on the plan, needs to get swapped back and forth. That can be done by right. It has no, meets all the setback requirements and everything. So that's going to be a separate transaction, which doesn't need to have your action on it. It can be dealt with through the planning board.
Okay.
So this corrects encroachment that has been in existence since 1984 on this piece of property, as well as the other buildings on the property in itself. And I believe back in that time frame, all you needed was 10 feet for a side yard setback, and the zoning was changed.
All right. The property where the Wayne Ardor property is located,
Yes.
the frontage is on Lyman Street?
Yes, it is. Yes.
And would then, it's one of those vague, where is the front yard? What is the front yard setback?
Right. Right.
And,
Well, right.
you know, I see, basically you're creating, the Wayne Ardor property is non-conforming in that the structures are too close to the property line.
Correct.
As well as the property in question.
Correct.
So either way, it's not like you're taking one property and making it non-conforming that wasn't, or the other way around.
Correct. Correct.
So either way, the city's gonna end up with two parcels that are then technically pre-existing non-conforming.
Correct. They're both, pre-existing non-conforming. We're making Mrs. Winter's property more non-conforming, or less non-conforming, I guess is.
Yeah, less
the way-
non-conforming.
non-conforming.
Yes.
By eliminating the encroachment of the building over the boundary line.
Correct.
And still maintaining the conformance of the side yard setback. In meeting with Jamie and Jessica, she felt clear that is the side yard, because that cinder block building is an accessory to the main structure, which is back here.
Okay.
And so that's an accessory building to that building.
Mhm.
It is, the Rainier Door property itself doesn't have adequate frontage to just sell that off as is. So that when time comes, that backland has to be sold with the existing house in the front as one.
Okay.
Because there's not enough frontage on there to split it into two for that use. And Deborah Angelo knows that, and everyone, is aware of that, through that. Right now, she leases or rents the buildings to Rainier Door, people that are running Rainier Door at the current time.
Okay.
So we're not making new non-conformity, we're just changing two pieces that were or are currently in non-conformance.
The side yard, we'll call it side yard setback from the garage to the property line, I mean, call it, yeah, I guess to the east, or to the west.
To West, yes.
What is that side yard setback? I know, I'm trying to read it. 54 feet?
50, oh no, that's the distance, oh, I see what you're saying. From here to here?
Yeah.
I would have to scale that. That 54-foot dimension is the length of the line from the boundary line to the.
Oh, okay,
the
I
property.
thought it was only from the, I didn't think it was from the
Right.
property line to the building, but I
Right.
saw the number there, so I then
Right, so.
second guessed
so-
myself.
So this, from here to here, is approximately 11 feet.
Okay, so even if you made parcel A have a 15-yard rear side yard setback, or rear setback, it still wouldn't, the property would not be conforming.
Correct.
Okay, that was my only hesitation.
Correct. Correct, because it doesn't,
It doesn't have
conform
side
to
yard
side
setback.
yard.
Okay.
On that. And, the zoning, it talks about it, if a detached one-story accessory building is 150 feet or more from the front lot line, which we are,
Mhm.
then we can go down to 15 feet. That's where Jessica felt that we should maintain from that block building at 15 feet, instead of doing it the other way around.
Okay, all right.
It was a better way of,
The garage, on 32 was not, it was like the back of the garage just barely gets to 150 feet.
at 32.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right, Jamie. You're right.
I need a clarification, Jamie. Is a detached residential garage considered in our non-conforming statutes a residential use or a non-residential use? Because we have this section for residential, and then there's this section for non-residential, and I never thought about it, was a detached residential garage residential or not residential?
I would say because it's accessory to
It would be
the
residential.
the
Okay.
residence, then it's considered a residential structure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if the board feels differently, and you're.
No, I-
Well, there are just
you're-
slightly
you're-
different standards,
Yeah.
that's all.
No, I think that based on the fact that it's a residential lot, then the detached structure is a.
Right, yeah, well, that's what I would think, but I just,
Right.
because there are two different standards, I just wanted clarification.
Yep. Okay. You all right? Questions from the board? Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak in reference to the application in front of us? Okay, at this point, we will close the hearing for discussion.
I think the special permit should be granted. It's not changing anything other than a line on paper in the registrar's office.
Okay. All right, if you want to hand me the zoning ordinance ordinance, that lovely section 12 that we have to go through.
Okay, well, it's on section 11, you need to go one more.
We have to go one more. Yes. There we go, special permit applications. And what's the section? There we go, decision. Criteria for approval. Okay, so, would someone like to make a motion? Or do we need to do we want to go through criteria
I'm
first?
gonna start with section 11, so you can just at least find whether or not it's more or less non-conforming.
Okay, so this is a pre-existing, non-conforming, single-family, two-family residential structure. Correct? That's what we decided. Changed to conforming, yeah. The non-conforming single or two-family residential structure may be extended, altered, or structural changed. This is not a structure.
Yeah, it's a structure.
Yeah, but with the property is what we're dealing with.
The section title is non-conforming, pre-existing non-conforming structures and lots and uses,
Yeah.
and then the specific
Okay.
subsections only talk about the structures, but I think we can clarify that.
Alright, any non-conforming structure or portion thereof, or any non-conforming use which has come into conformity shall not be altered, extended, or changed so as to again become non-conforming. That doesn't really pertain. That's 114.
11.1, section title. Pre-existing non-conforming structures, uses, and lots.
That's what I was reading. Structures and lot changes. Or do we have an old version here?
Nope, that's the new book, this says,
Non-conforming structure and lots, and
That's where I'm starting.
it doesn't talk about any changes to lots that are non-conforming, but I think it's the structure in this case.
Well, let's go to B. If the ZBA finds that the proposed change would not significantly intensify any existing nonconformity or create any new nonconformities, that the proposed changes would not cause the structure to become substantially more detrimental than the existing nonconforming structure to the neighborhood, it shall grant a special permit for the proposed changes. There we go. That is basically what we're covering. So that's section 11.12B. Yes? All right, so special permit criteria for approval, special permit granting authority, which is us, shall not grant a special permit unless it finds the reasonable fulfillment of the following criteria. And a lot of these don't pertain, but we will anyway. Conformance for the provision of the ordinance of the City of East Hampton, the general laws of the state of Massachusetts, and all applicable laws and regulations for state and federal agencies. Complies. Protection of the city amenities and abutting properties through the minimalization of any detrimental or offensive use or destruction of unique or important natural, scenic, or historic features on the site. Minimization of traffic does not apply. Adequacy of the methods of disposal of sewage doesn't apply. Adequate means of protecting wetlands. Is there any wetlands on the property? Doesn't apply. Mitigation of the adverse impacts of the city resources. It's not gonna change the water supply use or distribution system, sewage collection. Provision for any off-street loading or unloading of vehicles or vehicles incidental to the normal operation. Is this gonna affect the deliveries that Rainer Door would receive in any way?
No, it won't.
Okay, applicants' efforts to integrate development into the existing landscape, it's not a development, so we're not concerned. Minimalization of the area over which existing vegetation is to be removed. Are there any, nothing's gonna change, it's just a line?
Just a line on the plan.
That's it. The consistency of the development with the respective setbacks, areas, placement of parking, structural, architectural style, landscaping, surrounding buildings, and development, not applicable. Adequacy of the measures to prevent pollution of surface or groundwater, minimization, erosion, not applicable because it's just a line. Adequacy of the method to ensure that the use will not constitute a nuisance by reasons of unacceptable level of air or water pollution. There again, it's just a line. All right. We get a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve, there are no, impact at all.
Okay, and then we need a motion. I will make the motion to approve the application by Nancy Gwinner of 30 Lyman Street seeking special permit to change a pre-existing non-conforming structure and lot in accordance with section 11.1 of the East Hampton zoning ordinance. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. It usually takes about a week or so to write up the final decision, at which point it is sent out, and there's a 20-day review period or appeal period. If anyone who wasn't here reads the review, reads the approval and says, no, we really don't like this, they have the right to appeal, after which point the Registry of Deeds will be notified and it will be accepted.
Okay.
And then you'll need to take that to the planning board to get the A&R.
Correct. So hopefully we'll make the first meeting in February with the planning board to have them endorse the plan.
Unlikely.
Unlikely.
I think it's gonna be about a month before the special permit, the appeal period ends on the special permit. Generally, that's the time.
Okay.
Because it's,
Yeah,
14
we have
14
about a week or so
Yeah, right,
to get
okay.
it, and then the 20-day period
Correct.
starts.
So it's
So,
close,
it's
it's very
close.
close. Yeah, bang on.
Yeah, I don't know when the
Well,
planning board meets,
Yeah, we'll
so.
see when the date is, but that's close. We would hope that we could make the meeting on the, the first meeting in February, which I think is the second Tuesday, right?
The first Tuesday.
So we're hopeful.
Yeah, today's the 12th, so it'll be tight.
Yep.
I don't know what the cutoff is for the application.
Yep.
For the planning boards.
I can work with Jessica on that and Jamie.
Okay. All right.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, now you're gonna hope it gets through. Yeah.
That part is not a big deal at all, that's nothing.
It isn't a big deal, but it does
Yeah.
influence our ability to close
Yeah,
before our rate lock ends. Which is a big deal.
yeah, oh, that is big deal,
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
What bank is it?
Florence.
Yeah, the appraiser received to let the
I
house.
think it's.
I already brought the appraiser through a few
Yeah.
weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have it yet?
Yep, here we have the.
It was okay?
Yeah.
Great.
Conversations outside.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello there. You can move
I
forward.
feel so alone now. Standing back there.
All right. So I imagine you are Danielle Martineau.
Yes.
Okay. What's that? Yeah. All right. So, of 89 Northampton Street, seeking a special permit for the accessory apartment in accordance with section 8.5 of the East Hampton zoning ordinance. Subject property is located at 89 Northampton Street, parcel ID 128.0115. What would you like to do?
So there's a pre-existing, I don't know, it's like, well, it's an accessory building, and I would like to make it into an in-law apartment or accessory apartment. It used to be a dance retail store, I believe. I just bought the house, and I did a bunch of work to it, I was hoping to make it my home business at one point, which it will probably be, hopefully, in the future, but for now, I would like it to be an apartment. And it has a separate entrance. It meets all of the requirements except for one, which was the size was less than 800, that it should be less than 800 square feet. It's about 1,100, approximately 1,100. And it's pre-existing, so I couldn't really do much about that. It's probably a little bit less than 1,100, considering like there's a furnace room and stuff like that. So.
Okay.
Does the building have utilities like water and
Yes.
sewer?
Yes, and
And it's municipal water and sewer?
yes,
No.
yes, yeah. Everything is up to code too. I just did a bunch of work to it, so. Yeah. It's all like central heat and central air.
Okay. And now is this an attached?
No.
It's
It looks like-
detached.
It's this, she repainted it.
Yeah.
It's right on North, it's pink.
You spend more time driving around town than I do.
I always go
Sorry.
sightseeing. I don't, it's
It's
pink,
good.
just repainted the same color, sort of across from Cernak in that
Yes.
general area.
it was,
Yeah.
You're across from the Christmas blow.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And-
The pink
and-
house.
The pink house, it's pink, it's cute.
Yeah.
Okay. Then it's the apartment that's out in the back. Okay. I know where you are.
And there's enough parking spots for 4 vehicles.
So you meet all of the criteria for the apartment standard, except that it exceeds 800 square feet.
Yes.
You know, I thought there was a clause in there about 800 square feet or a third
This is whichever is less.
shall be no greater than 1/3, 30% of the existing total residential or 800 square feet, whichever is less. It's pre-existing. Pre-existing, it was a dance studio.
A dance retail store.
So it's a non-conforming building. I mean, it clearly looks like it was someone's home occupation for years, home business.
Right.
I mean, usually the furnace and whatever is in the basement. So it's less square footage just because that's on the first floor, and we don't count it as square footage if it was in the basement. You know, the water heater, the furnace, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, the furnace room is about 100 square feet, maybe a little bit less, like 80.
So that takes it down to 1,000 square feet, because I wouldn't count that, because we don't count, if it was in a basement, it would be irrelevant.
Well, what we have is, I think we can go under section 8.56, section B, which says the zoning board of appeals may authorize under a special permit and in conjunction with the building inspector a use known as an accessory apartment in an owner-occupied single-family dwelling. The board will review each existing use on a case-by-case basis to determine if the dwelling conforms to state building regulations. So basically, as long as it meets the state building regulations, and then we can, as a case-by-case basis, approve.
Works for me.
Does that sound like a reasonable,
So, yeah.
right there in black and white? And it says that the applicant must follow the same procedure described in the section, including everything else. So, questions, thoughts, concerns?
Adequate parking, right, so.
Yeah, yeah. I have some, I would recommend we tweak Jamie's recommended conditions on his under technical memo, because it says, the first one, that the accessory apartment shall expire upon the sale or transfer. But the second one says if she sells it and the new owner wants to use it as an accessory apartment, they can transfer the special permit. I think that makes sense, so, but if it expires, it can't be transferred. So
So that-
it contradicts itself slightly.
That's more or less from the ordinance.
I know, but it still contradicts itself.
What I think the intent of it is that unless the new owner transfers it, it's expired.
But that's not what it
So it
says.
expires, but then it can be transferred and.
Well, you can't
resumed.
transfer something that expires.
No, I think what you're
It's a new
saying
special
is that
permit. It's
if the property is sold, the new owner has a right to transfer the property, transfer the use of the
Yeah,
accessory apartment.
no, and they should,
If they fail to,
Right, then it expires.
then it expires. and
but
they have
that's
to-
not what this says. I just think it needs clarification.
Well,
But
that's-
we'll go with it if that came from the.
Administrative issue, that's
Well,
not.
I still think it
Well,
might
and I
be
would
confusing.
I would also like to add it as a standard condition to all the accessory apartment, because it's in the ordinance, but then people don't,
Understand that. that
or
is
they're not, when the property is sold, it's not attached to it's in no way referenced
Right.
in our current,
Now, is
So-
this information is attached to the deed, or is it just attached to the tax information?
it's filed, it needs to be filed at the registry, the special permit, like all special permits, needs to be filed at the registry of deeds before it takes effect.
Right.
So, once it's filed, then it's associated with the property forever, as long as the registry maintains those records,
Correct. Okay.
so.
Okay, so then when the property were to sell, when the deed is transferred, that information would become,
Transferable.
no, it would
Well, if
become obvious.
if they went to the registry and looked at the property documents, because it's not attached physically, it's just referenced, so so you have to do a title research or property history research, and it would turn up along with the old variances and the old special permits and everything else.
But does it also show up under the town printout?
We copied the assessors with all the special permits, so they should be updated for changes of use. So,
Right.
I don't know if there's a code in the assessor's database for single-family home with an accessory apartment separate from just single-family home. But if it was being changed to a duplex, they would change that code from single-family to duplex.
Right. Okay. It's more inquisitive, not
So
really.
the assessors may not actually change anything on their property card when they get the.
Right, because I know, all building permits are reflected on the property card. But I
Correct.
wasn't sure if applications for special permits and variances and anything like that was recorded.
If there's a change of use, it should be,
Okay.
but sometimes, the assessors don't have all the same use categories, and they use a standard list, so it might just be, so currently I believe the property is listed as multiple uses,
Right.
because it's a residence and the retail.
Okay.
But it doesn't explicitly say what the retailer is. You have to go through the registry and find the variance to figure out what was allowed under the, what retail use was allowed by the CBA.
All technology in the world. Yes, still have to do it. Okay. So, any further discussion?
The other condition I was, hoping to clarify was whether or not the previously granted use variance and special permits would be rendered void by this decision, or.
They
And
were,
so, if the board wanted to condition this permit, then they would expire, otherwise they continue indefinitely.
even non-conforming ones,
It's still, the variance runs with the land forever.
unless you convert it to something that's conforming, I would think, and this is conforming.
But the variances don't expire. And the variance is good forever. So unless this permit's conditioned to end the previous variances, then someone 30 years down the line could, if they wanted to open a retail dance floor studio, they could.
Based, because it was
Well,
already
then
previously approved.
that's the proposal, it's on the
Yeah.
paper.
Well, I have a question for you. if there's a property that has a special permit to do something, and then so a commercial building
Mhm.
that has a special permit for lawnmower repair, and then they decide that the tenant doesn't work out, so they're gonna bring in somebody else, and they have to come back for a new special permit. How is that different than a residential structure that then wants to have an apartment, and then, okay, well, we've decided we don't wanna have an apartment anymore, now we wanna have a dance studio. Do they have to come back again? Change of use?
It would be denied because it's a residential zone.
But it's a home business, like, as long as they meet all the criteria for a home business,
Right, they would need to get a new special permit for a home occupation.
home occupation.
And under currently our special permits do have language in there that they, that they supersede. And so if it's a change of use, and so if it was a doggy daycare, and then it's a supermarket, and then they wanna go back to doggy daycare, it's a change of use and a change of use. So the ordinance covers that. The old special permit was sort of.
Right, if it's going back to its original use, then it's not a problem, but if it wants to go to a different.
No, they would still need the special permit, both require the special permit.
Oh, okay.
Is at least my understanding, but with the variance, because it doesn't expire unless it's conditioned or explicitly, as part of another
But
permit.
this isn't a variance, this is a special use permit.
Yes,
Okay. I'm just making sure it's a special use permit.
right.
Okay.
So, but it could be conditioned to eliminate that variance, the use that was authorized by the variance. The city doesn't even allow use variances anymore.
Right.
Um,
So basically, we've run special permits to state use variances.
Yeah. Technically, there's reasons why. Because special permits are still, the categories of what is allowed in a special permit has gone through a public process. Whereas the variance, that's just people who are not elected can override the city council if it was a use variance.
I do have a question about that, if you don't mind. So if I was, because I do plan on having the home occupation in the future, so I would have to come back and just redo the process? If it was,
Unless you were going to open a retail dance floor.
Right. If I was to do it.
Store,
okay.
that would be the only way that you would be able to have
Just
a home occupation there without
Gotcha.
getting any further permits.
Sorry to interrupt, we couldn't get that light to shut off.
Oh, they turn off automatically.
What?
They turn off automatically.
Oh, okay, great.
And so if I was to sell my house, would it be, I'm just confused about that.
If you sell your house and the new owner wants to continue use of an accessory apartment, they have to come in and ask for the permit to be transferred.
Okay,
But they don't have to apply for the whole application. It's
Okay.
less rigorous to
Right.
just transfer it. They just come to the board and say, can we transfer this?
okay.
And the board says, it expires and you have to live in the house. Yes, whereas for a new application, you have to go through all the steps that you've gone through for a new application.
Okay. Yeah.
You're not making a deal with the devil here.
No, I wasn't, I was just thinking in terms of just, it being on the deed, I don't know, I'm just thinking like for accessing, or appraising the house, like what that would look like.
I think it would benefit the appraisal to have an accessory apartment there.
Okay, I mean, so the
Particularly if-
transfer wouldn't be,
No.
okay, so they won't look
Not
at it
at
and be
all.
like, we're not sure if it's, okay.
No.
That's why I was confused, okay,
Particularly if it's a detached building.
Mhm.
right, okay.
Yeah. All right. So let's make a motion. Anybody else, questions?
No, I didn't get it. I'm confused as to what was decided, if anything was decided for what conditions.
I think the ones you recommended are appropriate,
Yeah.
as long as we can,
All right. And we have to go through all these criteria again. Do we have to go through all the, so section 12 again too? It's not really a subdivision or
It's a special permit though.
it's a special permit, so we'll go through, let's go through them all, just so we make sure.
If you start with the accessory apartment, then a lot of them would lead into that.
All right, so we'll go through the accessory apartment. The apartment will complete separate housekeeping unit, yes. Only one apartment will be created in a single-family lot, yes. The lot in which a single-family house is located must meet a minimum lot size, yes. The owner of the residence in which the accessory apartment is located shall occupy at least one of the units. You ever live there?
Yes.
Good answer. The accessory apartment shall be designed so that the appearance of the building remains that of a single-family residence. It's already pre-existing. In addition to the original building is permitted, provided that the addition does not increase the floor area or volume of the original building lot more than 1/3. It's pre-existing. The accessory apartment shall be clearly a subordinate part of the single-family dwelling, pre-existing. At least 2 off-street parking spaces per dwelling unit are available, yes. For dwellings to be served by on-site septic, non-applicable. The construction of the accessory apartment must be in conformity with the state building code, pre-existing. That was pretty easy. So now we go to section 12.79. Conformance with this is a special permit of criteria for approval, conformance with the provision of the ordinance of the city of East Hampton, the general laws of the state of Massachusetts, and all applicable laws and regulations of state and federal agencies, protection of city amenities and abutting properties through minimization of the detrimental or offensive uses, the apartment, minimalization of traffic, it's not gonna cause any additional traffic. It has pre-existing sewage. It's pre-existing, so it doesn't affect the wetlands. It's not gonna affect the water or sewer system, anything additionally. Provisions of the state, off-street loading and unloading of vehicles, not applicable. Applicant's efforts to integrate the development, it's not a development. Minimization in the area which the existing vegetation is to be removed, not applicable. The consistency of the development in which, with respect to setback, area placement, parking, everything is pre-existing. Adequacy of the measures to prevent pollution of surface or groundwater to minimize erosion and sedimentation, it's non-applicable. Adequacy with the methods to ensure that the use will not constitute a nuisance by reason of unacceptable level of air and water pollution, non-applicable. So, do we want to do the conditions as part of the proposal, or would you like them separate?
If you just, they don't have to be part of the motion, if they're talked about, I mean,
Okay.
as long as there's some
Yes.
agreement that.
Okay, so the proposed conditions will be per section 8.53B. The use and rights granted by the decision shall expire if the property owner, we basically want, you have use of that property. The condition is that you can use it as an apartment until you sell the property, at which point the new owner has the right to transfer the use.
Okay.
If they fail to transfer the use within, there's no criteria for time, so we're putting a time period in,
6 months.
6 months
Okay.
of the date of closing, it's no longer applicable,
Okay.
okay? And should you decide to change the use from an accessory building to a different use, you need to come back and visit us.
Okay.
And you wanna do this one here too.
Oh, the decision supersedes and renders null and void any and all previously granted use variances and special permits on the property.
Okay.
Okay,
Including the variance that.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
including the variance, okay, that basically says that if you wanna change use now,
Great.
you're coming to visit.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the application of Danielle Martineau of 89 Northampton Street seeking a special permit for an accessory apartment in accordance with section 8.5 of the East Hampton zoning ordinance. The subject property is located at 89 Northampton Street. Second?
Second.
Tony seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved.
Thank you.
It'll take a week or so
Okay.
to get this decision figured out and written up, at which point then it is sent out for an appeal period of 20 days, after which point it is stamped by the city clerk, and you may then pick it up and take it to this county deeds and register, and you are good to go.
Great. Will I be notified once that happens, when the city clerk stamps it?
We'll send you a copy of the decision
Okay.
and a letter stating when the expiration date is.
Okay.
And then it's on you to check in with the city clerk and get the copy, the official copy that you would then bring to the registry.
Gotcha. Okay.
So after that date, you can check with the city clerk and she'll give you that
Okay. Great.
letter.
Thank you.
All right. Congratulations. All right. Our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, February 9th, 2017. Everybody look at your printed devices. February 9th. You like that, huh?
It should be okay.
I make a motion to
Hello,
close.
one second. I spoke to Maggie and she has trouble now making to Thursday meetings. So I don't know if it's, Thursdays still work well for everyone else. Obviously Jared's not here and we can do this by email, but if,
We can go Wednesday or something.
I can do the second Wednesday of the month. Okay.
I mean, I don't know her
Yeah,
schedule. So,
Tuesdays are not good for me,
or-
but, so, I'll tell you what, let's, we can send it out if, let's do it via email.
If I put together like a doodle poll about
What's the
what
good?
people's availability is generally and
Yeah.
timing.
Are you talking about permanently changing the meeting night,
Yeah.
or just next month?
Permanently. Oh, I'm just putting it out there. Maggie says that she has trouble now with, kids stuff and
Okay.
an adult, with making it on Thursdays, so,
Well, we still have 5 members with Fran.
Mhm.
It's just that I'm assuming Thursday night has been the night for years.
I mean, it's not written in any sort of
Right.
statute.
No, I mean, we've changed the time,
Right.
we've done all kinds of things, so.
Only days I have a little bit of problem with are Tuesday and Thursdays, actually. But Wednesdays are fine, and Mondays, I don't, how everybody else is.
Tuesdays I can't.
Yeah, Tuesdays are bad for me.
Yeah, Tuesdays are bad.
Tuesdays are bad, generally for me as well.
Wednesday,
Okay.
for this group, it looks
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, Wednesdays would work for me,
Yeah.
okay.
We
Okay,
just
so
see what Maggie.
I'll send in a poll and see if
Yeah.
everyone can generally do Wednesdays and then
If we need to move it
still
forward.
at 6:30 or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
6:30 was.
6:30 is real good, for me, any.
Okay,
Okay,
Yeah.
great. All right, thank you.
all right. Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
done.